Hey guys, how's it going tonight? It's late. It's late. The date is April 5th, 2022. That's all I got to say on this year's tournament. What a tournament this year. And congratulations to the Kansas Jayhawks on winning the 2022 National Championship. What a journey. What a year. Just going to get all my thoughts out about it. Yeah, I mean, it's emotional to have college basketball back. I thought that this tournament today, the national championship for Kansas to be down 16 points and for Ochai Agbaji to win a national championship, for David McCormick to win a national championship, for all these guys that have been in the Kansas program for a really long time, for this team to do it, to win the Big 12 tournament, and for Bill Self, who's been coaching at Kansas since 2003. He's been coaching there for 20 years. And for him to win a national championship this year, for him to get his second title is well overdue. And he said that in his post-game presser. Like, Bill Self deserves more than one national championship. He deserves to have two national championships. And I know that they lost to Kentucky when they had Anthony Davis. I know that team, I don't know if that was the same year when they had Thomas Robinson. I mean, they've made a lot of Final Fours. They've also, come up short. Villanova beat them in the Elite Eight when they had Frank Mason and Devontae Graham. They had a really great team. The year when they should have beaten Oregon, and Oregon beat them to go to the Final Four against Carolina in 2018 or 2017. So, Bill Self, he's had his fair share of losing games. I mean, against Wichita State, they lost against UNI, Northern Iowa. I mean, that was one of my favorite games ever, and I know I have an Iowa Hawkeye shirt on, but, I mean, I love Northern Iowa basketball, and it was Ali Farokhmanesh. It was Jordan Eggleseder. It was Adam Cook. His brother was Jay Cook. Later on came Bennett, but Bennett wasn't on that team in 2009, and that was for Farokhmanesh in Oklahoma City after Northern Iowa beat UNLV by 3 on Thursday, and it was a Saturday afternoon game, and I picked Northern Iowa in my bracket because I know that they went through the Missouri Valley Conference, and they were a 9 seed that year. And that was one of the biggest upsets in tournament history. And that team had the Morris twins. It had Cole Aldridge, Tyrell Reed, Brady Morningstar, Sharon Collins maybe was on that team. But that team, when Cole Aldridge was playing with the Morris twins, that was one of the best front courts ever. They did have Sharon. They had Tyshawn Taylor. Of course, Darrell Arthur and Mario Chalmers are Kansas legends. And then in the mid-2000s, then you point to Perry Ellis, you point to Frank Mason, you point to Embiid and Wiggins. And that one year was massively disappointing when you had those talents on that team. But Thomas Robinson was a warrior, and his story. And this has been echoed a lot of places, but the Kansas Jayhawks are a fabric of college basketball history. And they've had Adolph Rupp, Dean Smith, and Roy Williams. So these two programs, Carolina and Kansas, were forever intertwined, with Bill Self taking over for Roy Williams. And tonight's game, or just the Final Four in college basketball being in New Orleans, was a culmination of everything right about the sport. And for Bill Self to win it this year, Christian Braun, I love his story. Born in Burlington, Kansas, small town Kansas, and grew up in Burlington. And, Tyrell Reed's sister was babysitting him as his parents were watching Tyrell Reed, I think, win that national championship. So Christian then went to Overland Park, Kansas, and he interfaced at Blue Star High School or whatever it's called. And, some of my favorite players from that 2018 and 2019 Loyola team that was magical with Porter Moser that went to the Final Four. You have Ben Richardson and Clayton Custer were on that team. Where came from Overland Park, came from the Kansas City area. So, Christian Braun, he has a lot of swag. He has a lot to him. He's great. Then you look at Dave McCormick, who went to Oak Hill Academy, 6'10", 6'11" guy, and had injuries, had a lot of doubters during his time at Kansas that he's talked about. He's overcome all of them and had a performance for the ages in the Final Four. Mitch Lightfoot, a guy that was so highly coveted out of Scottsdale, Arizona, had a similar path. Disappointing. People thought that he would be a dominant starting center, but he embraced his role and is now a champion. Ochai Agbaji, a 3-star from Milwaukee, just worked. And, kid with long arms, 6'6", kid, and made himself into, a Player of the Year candidate, Big 12 Player of the Year, most valuable player in the NCAA Tournament, and had a performance for the ages against Villanova, and is one of the best players in college basketball, and is a talent that, is going to go and get drafted, top 15, which it matters for Ochai, but as a college basketball fan, he's just one of the best players in college basketball. He's a top 5 player. He's the best 2-guard in the country, and he was the best 2-guard all year. And DeJuan Harris is probably the best on-ball defender all year. Jalen Wilson is a tremendous small forward. Christian Braun, and even though these guys might not have like the Morris twins or Cole Aldridge or Mario Chalmers, who had an unbelievable NBA career, Tyshawn Taylor might be he is a better individual scorer. Maybe you could compare Remy Martin to Tyshawn. I think Sharon Collins had a better career than Remy Martin, but Remy Martin in this game as a 6th man he was legendary. And, it's also been said on other platforms, and, but Kansas's run this year to win a national championship. Self's had better teams, but they've ran up against really tough draws, really tough coaches and great teams. And, whether it was Bucknell in 2006, we talked about Northern Iowa, Wichita State, a lot of teams that I like were able to bring down Kansas and Bill Self. And for him, he only won one national championship. And a lot of times, they would get to the Final Four in 2018, they wouldn't be formidable. And for Bill Self to win this championship, for him to win 2, he deserves it. And he deserves to be in that class of greats. And he stood the test of time. And the NCAA has tried to come for Bill Self the past couple of years. And Bill Self has dealt with adversity. He's dealt with a changing landscape. They went from the one-and-done era, and ironically, they did this with homegrown talent, and they did this with older guys and seniors and juniors and seniors. And I personally love seeing juniors and seniors win because when you're in college 3 or 4 years, I want to see that time pay off. And the kids who go to school for 1 year and win, they're on the NBA. But kids, this might be the pinnacle for several guys on Kansas's basketball team. This might be the pinnacle for seniors, that are on any of these teams, or juniors. But guys that are going on to the pros, like some guys do use college basketball as a vehicle for the NBA and to make money, and that's not a problem. Like, if you have the talent, like, that makes a lot of sense. But as a person who just really loves college basketball and likes college basketball more than professional basketball, and it's not that I don't like the NBA, I'm going to watch the playoffs and I'm going to enjoy the NBA immensely. I love basketball. NBA basketball I love as well, but the stakes of college basketball, the stories of perseverance and staying 3 to 4 years and your connection to the cities and the fan bases, that's what makes college basketball so special. And the seniors, when it's your last go-around, and it's very emotional when it's your last go-around in college, because some of these guys will go overseas to Europe for a year or two, but a lot of them will just go into finance, or a lot of them will just go to desk jobs and then be coaches at their local high schools. That's what happens to it. This is their moment in the sun, so many guys. And I love seeing teams where it's their moment in the sun rather than a team filled with NBA guys. Like, when you associate Kyrie Irving, do you associate him with Duke University? You know, Tyus Jones, again, like, I wish Tyus Jones stayed 3 years so he could be one of the greatest players in college basketball history, because, you know, the thing is, in Tyus, again, is a really great NBA player, and he won his national championship. But when you're like a junior like Jalen Brunson, you come back to Philly, and I know because I live in this area, this town will treat you forever. When you're Jalen Brunson and you're there 3 years, you're one of the greatest college basketball players ever, and that's special, the kids who stay 4 years. And college basketball is everything. And to guys like Jason Tatum that are unbelievable in the pros, that only go for 1 year and that are legends in the NBA and had a really good college season, you know, like Duke was really one and dones. Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson of Duke and Kentucky. It's great for those guys, and they do make an impact, and they do like their school. But there's something about staying somewhere 2 or 3 years and building that relationship with the fan base through the ups and the downs. College football allows you to do that. The NBA, I mean, I'm glad, in a sense, the NIL, imagine if kids forewent a season of NBA basketball to play college basketball, because some of these guys, like, you see some guys, there are stories about how guys go in the first round and make it in the NBA after leaving early, but then there's some guys that go right to the G League and never really make it. Now, they could say, I would have went back to college and I would have had an injury, or I'd be at the same place anyway, but you want to see guys that love college basketball, that have like bled for their programs, that are lifers at their program, like Christian Brown, like Abaji, like Dave McCormick. You want to see those guys be rewarded with championships and be rewarded in these moments. That's why Brady Manick, like, the one thing is Brady stayed for 4 years, and I don't know if he's going to go to the league or not. Now, he just got to North Carolina, but at least he's been in college a long time. RJ Davis is a guy who's been through the ringer too. So North Carolina, so Kansas, them winning this championship, it's been said it's not even like in terms of NBA or even college talent. Like, it's a team that was a little bit inconsistent, but still really got it together at the end of the year, was battle-tested in the Big 12, got a 1 seed, had Providence, Wisconsin, and Auburn in the region, didn't have to play any of those seeds. Well, played Providence in the Sweet 16. Providence was a tough game. They played Miami and played so well against them. And then Justin Moore was injured, and then Armando Bacot. So, I'm not hating on the championship, but the road was easier for Kansas than it was for Duke or North Carolina. That's just the way it is. It's the way it is, the way it shakes out. But for Bill Self, so many years Kansas has had an unbelievable team and never was able to win it all. And finally, for all those years of not winning with the talent that they have, they were able to get this team. This team was able to grit their way to a championship with unbelievable defense, timely scoring. Christian Braun was fearless. Abaji is phenomenal. Jalen Wilson, Remy Martin has all the shooting that you need. So they had all the components, and they were able to put it together. And for Bill Self, in his 20th year of doing this as a head coach, it was so deserving. Now I'll talk about North Carolina. Tremendous credit goes to Hubert Davis. I had my doubts about Hubert. Just had never been a head coach before. You're replacing a legend. I didn't know about his style. I didn't really know a lot about how he'd run the program. And, of course, the team got off to a really tough start this year. So for Coach Davis, for him to get the team together and get the team even into the tournament was an accomplishment. But then going to Cameron Indoor Stadium and beating Coach K on that day was amazing. I mean, the guts that those guys showed. And Caleb Love, such a fun player to watch. RJ Davis. The reason why Caleb Love's so much fun to watch is he always believes, he wants to take the shot. And I've played enough sports and never at the level of these guys. Don't have the talent, nor do I have the mental capacity to play the sport like these guys. Don't have the natural abilities, probably, only being 5'10". But I don't think I have the mental ability, and I know myself when I played. And I was afraid, and I still am afraid of the shot of the moment. You know, I don't want to mess up. I'm afraid of failure. I weigh, I'm going to cost my team the game. But Caleb Love puts in the work, and he envisions success, and he wants the game to rest on him. Okay? He wants to take the shot. He wants to be responsible for the outcome. That is a rare quality in sports. People won't admit that they don't want to take the final shot, but seldom people actually do consistently. And he has rare mental strength as an athlete that you have to admire. His ability the way he finishes inside, the way he rises up and can hit contested shots, the way that he could dribble and get open. He is just a special player. The shots he hit against UCLA in the second half, I was there to watch the game actually in person here in Philly. That was one of the great performances in tournament history. His second half against Duke was just as impressive. Amazing performances. RJ Davis had those stretches as well. Mid-range game, getting to his spots, unbelievable. Armando Bacot became a household name. My dad had no idea about college, about the North Carolina team, and Bacot, 6 games of double-doubles. And he hurt his ankle in the Duke game. He didn't come out of that game and played on like 50%, and then his legs finally gave out. They only played 5 guys, the Iron 5, and then Puff Johnson. So the North Carolina 5, I mean, these guys are going to be remembered forever. Caleb, RJ Davis, Brady Manick, Leaky Black, and Armando Bacot, so they're going to be remembered in North Carolina lore. And they took this team all the way to the championship. And even in 2017 or 2016, this is a more memorable run. Beating every game they were involved in was memorable. They killed Marquette, memorable because they squashed the living heck out of them. Then they were up 25 on Baylor. And it took an amazing stretch to be up by that many points on Baylor, to be up 25. It takes unbelievable basketball. And then they were able to show the mental strength to finish, like after Baylor comes back and you do choke and you deal with a referee tossing your player for absolute horse crap, for just like a shove. For you to have the ability as North Carolina to beat the defending champs as they take it to overtime. Amazing mental strength that you were able in overtime to like recover, get past the fact that you blew this 25-point lead and not just say, oh my God, I can't believe we just choked it. I can't believe we're playing 5 extra minutes. These refs have absolutely been atrocious to us. And that was maybe the most impressive thing that they've done. And then against UCLA, when you have Juzang, Bernard, Jaime Jaquez, and Tiger Campbell, that group of 4, and you look at UCLA, they could have gotten to the title game too, or made a run at the Final Four in the championship. They were that good. They were that good. And that was a battle of titans that we saw in Philadelphia. And North Carolina stayed in it the whole game. Against Duke, they stayed in it. They weathered runs. First half, they weren't shooting well. Stayed in the game, clawed. Tonight, Kansas came back in the second half, took a 6-point lead. Baycott hit free throws, Manick hit free throws, dunks. Unbelievable mental and physical fortitude from North Carolina, and they were able to beat Duke twice. And for a first-year coach taking over for a legend, again, the story, knock on wood for Hubert, long-term health. The story is still ongoing for Hubert Davis. What an amazing first year of coaching for Hubert Davis. And no matter what happens in his tenure, this coaching job this year is amongst the best in college basketball history, and it's one of the best coaching jobs in the history of North Carolina. And for a first-year coach that comes after Roy and Coach Dean Smith, that is absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, North Carolina fans, the attachment to Coach Davis and just how he's made his imprint on the sport in 1 year after replacing Roy Williams, to replacing a legend, is crazy. And I've said this because I like the coaching profession. I would never want to replace a legend. I'd want to come in somewhere and try to resurrect a team. Kind of like Sam Pittman, or like what Coach Woodson's trying to do at Indiana basketball. Hubert Davis, what a season. What a season. What a tournament. Kansas wins it. Bill Self, Christian Brown, Obaji, McCormick, Remy Martin, winning player, makes winning plays at the end. The Final Four in New Orleans. What a sight. What a place. Coach K's last year. The St. Peter's Peacocks getting to the Elite Eight, a 15 seed, winning 3 games in the tournament. The Arkansas Razorbacks getting to 2 straight Elite Eights and beating Gonzaga. The Houston Cougars and Kelvin Sampson, a Final Four and now an Elite Eight, beating the Arizona Wildcats. The return of West Coast basketball with Arizona and Gonzaga this year being the 2 number 1 seeds from the West Coast. The emergence of Creighton. And their win against San Diego State and what they could potentially do next year, but potentially what Arkansas can do with the guys that they got coming in like Jordan Walsh and Smith, the point guard. College basketball, the sport, the fans, it is in a beautiful, beautiful place, college basketball. In an incredible place. Tournaments, the conference tournaments, I want to be even more locked in. I say that every year, and then football comes around, and in November, it's Thanksgiving, it's feast week. You watch a little bit, you watch your teams play in South Dakota, or you watch even in Atlantis. Hopefully they could get to Maui this year. You watch those teams, and then they, in December, you get a couple of other games, but then it's, it's football. It's college football. It's the playoffs for college football. It's the NFL season's coming to an end. NFL playoffs, wild card weekend, divisional rounds. It's tough on weekends to watch. And then after the Super Bowl, you do get involved even more with college basketball, and you're probably going to follow your team, like Creighton's my team. And it's really exciting when you have a returning group of guys. But for Kansas, I mean, Kansas is a basketball university. It's a basketball town. So is North Carolina, Duke, of course, and then Villanova. So that Final Four this year was so special. The tournament, you did have your series of upsets like Arkansas beating Gonzaga, St. Peter's, of course, going on their run, beating Purdue and Kentucky, even Murray State in there. University of Miami as a 10 seed, Iowa State and Coach Otzelberger way ahead of schedule there. Mark Adams taking over at Texas Tech, getting to the Sweet 16. Jaden Ivey showing out, Purdue. So, man, it can inspire you. You know, when is it going to be your year if you're not a Kansas fan? But I wanted Kansas tonight because I wanted Bill Self to win this, and I felt North Carolina. I felt that them beating Duke twice, and this was the first year of Coach Davis. I felt that they had an opportunity for a lot of these guys to come back. They were probably the most deserving team in the entire field of winning. You know, Kansas was able to play a Miami team. They didn't have to play Justin Moore. That's out of their control. They can only control what was in front of them. But, you know, North Carolina had to go through UCLA and Baylor. Now, Baylor got injured. They did play St. Peter's, so many will consider that a layup of sorts, but they still had to beat St. Peter's. St. Peter's is really good this year, great defense, and North Carolina showed their grit, and North Carolina beat Duke. So North Carolina had a 15-point lead. North Carolina was worthy of being a champion, a national champion, you know, and that's the thing about the NCAA tournament is you can replay it again, and maybe Kentucky's winning the championship. Replay it again, maybe Purdue. Replay it again, maybe Arizona, maybe Gonzaga. You can replay it, and that's the thing about a one-game tournament, and that's what makes college basketball great. It does. It is unfortunate when you have a juggernaut and your team goes down early in the tournament. I seem to like underdogs, but that's why this tournament is so damn great. And the consistency of the broadcast and the consistency of the product and what Turner was able to do in the tournament, showing the games, it's the best, man. The first 4 days of March Madness are tremendous, and it's so emotional every single game. Tonight's game was even so emotional for Coach Self and losing his father, and just how emotional this was. And for all the former Kansas guys like Mario Chalmers to be there, you know, Devontae Graham, like everybody talking about this game for Kansas basketball. And it's truly a family. That's what sports are, and it overlaps across generations of players. And for basketball, I even think it's like one of the tightest knit circles too. And to see the former players, because the former players forge your successes. The former players lay the blueprint for successes. And it's crazy because you watch teams of your favorite teams. And some teams you say, this team is unbelievable. You watch them in the season and in the conference tournament, and you're like, this team has the talent to do whatever in the NCAA tournament. Or this team, 1 through 5, has been the most fun team I've ever watched in my life. And then they get to a tournament. They go up against a horrible matchup. They play a bad game combined with the other team playing amazing. And in a one-game scenario, your team is freaking blown out. And then you're questioning everything your team did during the season. And then the next year, your team gets to play a 12, 13 seed. The team that was better the year before, that you know if those two teams played, one team can beat the other team. The team that somehow made the Elite Eight that was not even close to the talent that your team had a couple of years ago when that team that had all the talent was bouncing the round of 32. That's the kind of roll the dice of the tournament. And then there's some years, where it's Wisconsin and Kentucky, and some years the cream absolutely rises to the top. No matter what, at the end of the day, to win a 6 games in the tournament, you're always worthy of being a national champion. And you got to enjoy the ride no matter what. And some of my favorite teams, were disappointed early. Doug McDermott's my favorite college player ever. Grant Gibbs, Ethan Wragge, Enjanike, Josh Jones, Austin Chapman, Jahens Menegat, and Creighton in 2012 and 2013 when I was 17, 18 years old. That was my favorite team ever. The way that they would pass the basketball, the way that Greg McDermott's offense was, the way Ethan Wragge would shoot threes, the way Doug would play, the way that they went from the Missouri Valley, the way their offense was in the Valley, the way their offense stayed consistent in Big East play. Avery Dingman, Artino, just an amazing team. Devin Brooks, just a team that offensively had every ingredient. And then, they were a 3 seed, when they went on their magical run. They lost to Duke when I thought that they had a team that could really win and go deep in the tournament. And they shot really bad against Duke, and then against Baylor, you had to go up against Corey Jefferson and Isaiah Austin and 2 Twin Towers and a team where Creighton was starting Ethan Wragge and they struggled with size. And it was in San Antonio, and Baylor beat them by 30. And that was the toughest day for so many Creighton fans. The end of an era just suddenly. That's the thing about the tournament. Bam. It can end like that. And so that team, though, you look back on it and you gotta love that team. You gotta love the journey. The Wichita State team that made the Final Four was filled with a young man by the name of Fred VanVleet from Rockford, Illinois. 6-foot point guard, barely got any Division I offers. A guy, Ron Baker, that was a walk-on that went to Kansas camp and went to Wichita State camp, and Greg Marshall just took him on a whim from a town with 1 stoplight, Scott City, Kansas. Evan Wessel, Carl Hall, who was a JUCO kid. The year before they had Torrey Murray, NBA player, Garrett Sturtz, 4-year center. Awesome Missouri Valley player. I think you had Ragland the year before. So, as we're flickering out here. My point is, in this long-winded story, is that the team before lost to VCU in the first round, and the team after that made the Final Four with 18-year-old kids. The team before would have beat their ass in a freaking scrimmage. But the next team was just magic and played Gonzaga, had a magical game, and then those guys grew into legends after. So it is important. It is important. It is. Your road to the Final Four is important. It gives you confidence for young guys as well. Your road to the Final Four. So it's about the road, guys. It's about the road. It's about the journey. But having fans back this tournament, guys, was amazing. Tonight's game, the resiliency of Kansas to come back against North Carolina, the layups that were hit, Christian Brown getting stuffed by Brady Manick, but still going in strong. Remy Martin literally in the first half, could not get his depth perception right, was throwing the ball off the backboard. Second half, then hitting baseline contested threes and hitting it with perfect accuracy and depth. Remy was just, he was different in the second half. So, as literally the lights in the studio are kind of going down, and as college basketball season comes to a close, I know this was a slow-winded kind of a storybook time here on Kurt Magoosh and Slaughterhouse Sports, but it's great to have these emotional talks with the audience, with the fan base, as the light's coming back, and I know that the light will eventually go. So, it's late. What an emotional time when you see Ochai Agbaji crying with his parents after winning a national championship. That's what sports, that's what college basketball is all about. Thanks, guys. Thank you for watching.